New tonight, a Call 7 exclusive. Their prison chief was murdered by a parolee they were supposed to be monitoring.
One of those parole officers opening up to Call 7 investigator Teresa Marchetta. Teresa's live in the newsroom tonight.
Their job to protect you from dangerous felons on parole. This officer, one of several we've heard from, who feels scapegoated by the DOC in the wake of Nate Leon and Tom Clements' murders. He wants to set the record straight about the working conditions he says put officers and you at risk.
You got parolees out there doing bad stuff, but after your story airs, what are they doing? They're going in taking computers out of people's offices, seeing who's talking to you. When you got people out there tested positive for drugs, going out there absconding parole daily, why aren't they out there using that effort to track these guys down?
This parole officer, who asked us to conceal his identity for fear of losing his job, says the Call 7 investigators haven't been getting the whole truth about Colorado's parole division. For starters, about the number of parolees on their caseloads.
So every parole officer out there carries a caseload of both ISP and regular parole of about 80 to 100 people.
Wait a minute. So we were told that the average parole officer has about 50.
That is a complete lie. I guarantee you the cases are a lot higher than that. Who's ever telling you that is a bull-faced lie.
Well, the DOC's telling us that.
Well, the DOC's bull-faced lying to you then.
We started digging into the Department of Corrections procedures after Nate Leon and prison chief Tom Clements were murdered, presumably at the hands of parolee Evan Ebel.
I'm not going to talk a whole lot about Evan Ebel because I think this goes deeper than that case. But what I will talk about is the fact that the officer that did this, who was his parole officer, is a very, very good officer. He did the very best that he could do with what he was given.
One weakness, he says, basic resources parole officers rely on every day in the field to do their jobs.
The day I signed up for the job, they gave me a badge, a cell phone, one pair of handcuffs, one little can of OC spray, 2 extra magazines, and said, go do work now. I am wearing an expired vest that's been expired for 5 years now.
And the DOC knows this?
The DOC knows this. It's been brought up. So their idea looking into it was taking range masters out there, shooting up a couple other vests that were expired, and it stopped those bullets. Therefore, it must be good for us too. Give me a radio. I can't even call for backup. And if you're lucky, if you're one of the few that do have a radio, they give you a radio. You could be working in Denver, and they give you a radio for Aurora.
And the state vehicles parole officers are assigned, no computers, no radios, no added equipment to keep officers safe when transporting parolees.
They give you no lights and sirens in these cars. They give you no cages in these cars. We have very few that have cages.
When you stand back and you look at this, would you call this a crisis?
It's an emergency crisis and we need to fix it.
The issue of overtime, another sore spot he says the DOC isn't being upfront about. Parole officers work a flexible schedule, but it has to add up to 160 hours a month.
And then they told people that you'd be eligible for overtime. Well, here's what they don't tell you, is that in order for us to be eligible for overtime, you have to work 11 hours for free. If we work anything over 160 hours, we get written up.
This is important because he says this is the situation Ebel's parole officer was in when Ebel absconded, going days before anyone from parole started looking for him.
What do you do if you're out of hours?
You panic because you know you're going to get written up. You're on a catch-22.
So those supervisors who are in those roles are not going to pick up the slack. Is that what I'm hearing? They're not going to get your back if you're out of hours and you've got alerts going off?
In my personal opinion, no. They're not going to answer their phone on their weekend. They do have an on-call supervisor, and if you're lucky to get them, congratulations. There's just no accountability. It's absurd.
Do you think we've been lucky that there haven't been more incidents like what we saw with Evan Ebel?
Extremely lucky. And I'm going to tell you right now, if this system doesn't get fixed, you're going to see a lot more of it, and fast.
We contacted DOC spokeswoman Allison Morgan about the concerns this officer brought forward: equipment, overtime, safety. She didn't dispute most of what he said, but she didn't provide any direct answers to our questions either. I'm Call 7 investigator Teresa Marchetta.